Welcome to Devalued with Mike and Caroline, the place where we talk about art and money and how creative people are navigating the ever-changing landscape of trying to make a living for their work.
We're going to be interviewing all types of creative people, and we'll be talking about all types of issues that creative people face. We hope you'll get something out of it. We're excited to welcome you to Devalued. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Caroline.
Who are we talking to today?
We are talking to Josephine Foster, who is an indie folk legend.
I loved this conversation. She is a beautiful soul.
Yeah, she is like a messenger from a dream world.
Yes. I think hearing from people who are living different lifestyles through their creation, their music careers, it's good to get different perspectives, and hers is really beautiful.
Yeah, she's been able to kind of follow her own muse everywhere and really create music that is deeply original and timeless, and including her new album, Domestic Sphere, which is coming out soon. We were lucky enough to hear that before anyone else, which is a perk of podcasting. And it's beautiful as everything else she's done, and this conversation was super inspiring.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
We'll start out how we usually like to start out, and asking our big question, do you think money and art go together?
No. Hopefully they flow together, but they don't naturally go together, I don't think.
Do you think they've kind of been like forced together just by the framework that we're living in?
Let's see. Yeah, I guess they're like oil and vinegar a little. I think art is a basic human quality and activity that's not about commerce in its essence.
Right.
And I think that its origins are, I guess you could just say folkloric, something that is a part of daily life and a outgrowth of normal human activity. And it's kind of like an ornamentation and also a celebration of normal life, and exploring those things in the mystery of life and stuff. And the commerce part is, to me, a outgrowth of more and more, I guess, more concentrated wealth systems and specialization and, and all of that. So, I mean, it is what it is at this point, but that's my slant on it.
No, I think that's beautiful. Where do you sit on this camp? Do you feel like, music, is it a craft or is it an art? Because a lot of people here in Nashville will say, like, especially session musicians that I've met, they'll be, they've learned this trade, the ability to play, in a session. If it's, no matter if it's like an R&B or a country, they can just go from room to room and just play on anyone's record, and it's more of a trade to them than it is an art. So where do you sit on that?
I think that has to do, to me, with like artisan or artanasia. How do you say that word?
Artisanal?
Artisanal, like artisanal work. And again, like you could say, that's something that is part of all the arts at their root, even like cooking is art, and it's like the traditional things. So you can be, and then when you get more highly individuated, you might call that person more of a, like, again, they get more specialized and they're an artiste or whatever you want to call it, and they're kind of like, they couldn't necessarily flow into all the other pools of music or whatever medium you're working with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't think that's better. I think
Right.
I think it's a different kind of art. One's more self-effacing, one's more less of ego base to me, a little possibly in some ways, in that you're into the collective,
Right.
supporting the collective role. I don't know.
No,
That's a big question.
That's great. I mean, being a fan of your music for so many years, one of the things that I love about it is the fact that it seems that you've really studied all different types of music, and you have a kind of a knowledge of music from, it seems like you have like an infinity, like you can go back forever in terms of like your influences. Whereas, if you listen to, some indie rock bands, it feels like their influences stop at like 1995. But you go back a lot longer, it seems, and you've studied, it seems like you've studied ancient songs and ancient songwritings and things like that. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I wanted to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I think there's some truth to that. I mean, when I was young, I was interested and resonated, with some contemporary things, but I was also very deeply fascinated by time travel in terms of like sounds from the past, whether it was like madrigals in the in the choir or the hymns, and some hymns in church that really I found really compelling and interesting and stuff, or and I felt that was a loosening of the boundaries of my time and space, and that seems to me the great magnetism of music to me is you don't have to be locked into your time. Of course, the future is also endless, but there's also there's written scores and then the oral tradition. So participating in that is really is a big part of it's not the center of what I do, but it's informed what I do a lot. And I think there's a mix of anonymous works that have the hands of many people that have disappeared, and then there's authored work, by composers when the names started sticking on, at least names we can recall, in history. So those are interesting as well. So that's kind of that juncture of the same thing we were talking about just before,
Yeah, because so many of your melodies, including on your new album, sound like they've always been here.
Well, I worry about that. I think I just don't know. I can't possibly go and check and make sure I didn't steal that. It could be that I sometimes do try to make sure I shift things enough so that I feel that I've definitively put my spin on it. Not that I'm inventing the wheel, the wheel is what we're all on. So I'm not trying to invent the wheel, but in a sense, sometimes I just relax and go, well, I guess it doesn't matter. Hopefully I won't ever get into trouble for getting too close to some living work, but yeah.
No, I mean, I wasn't implying that you were like lifting from people, but rather that when you hear your songs, it feels like this song could have existed like 500 years ago, or it feels like this song has always been in the air in a way that a lot of contemporary music does not have that same feeling.
Well, thank you. I feel that to me it's only been a joy to dig in the past. I mean, I've been interested to go and experience, and music you can actually physically embody different times and stuff. So that's a luxury. So I guess if some people are just interested in the last 40 years, I mean, that's pretty normal, I think. 1960s and 50, a lot of people don't. The 40s is now ancient history to a lot of people. Well, obviously, even the 70s, things like that. And it's really not my place to say anything, but there's a lot more out there. So I don't know. It's fun to give it a try.
Well, you've made a lot of music. You've worked with a lot of people. I wondered, what keeps you going? What is your muse?
Well, I think that the dream world is big for me. Just things come to my mind. Sometimes I dream songs, ideas, just pretty much like most creators, just little things that you're very curious about, a little phrase that comes to your mind, a feeling that you're able to translate into a chord progression or a sound. Just the need to canalize different facets of my life into a song, and sometimes that's so satisfying, to manifest this pattern, this melody, and this thing, and be able to return to it as well, because it sort of exists now, and you can, I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does, for sure.
As an artist, you're making your music, you're translating all your thoughts and feelings and your inspirations into a piece of art. When you get past that part and you get into sort of the post-creation cycle that most art needs now in our modern world of promotion and all that, do you enjoy that part too?
Well, I mean, it's like a vintner has a good year and their grapes, and they bottle it up, and they've had a really amazing time in the sun and harvesting those grapes, and that it's kind of a compression of a poetic experience and work and a labor, and then you get excited to share it, and to some degree, like putting a label on a bottle, that's a beautiful thing, and then that somebody might have this independent experience of what you already experienced, and then it leaves your control, and it's nice that it might give value to somebody's world, and that's nice. It's fun, you get excited, but
yeah, that's a really beautiful way to describe it. I mean, I love that. My fiance is a sommelier, so she would very much appreciate that.
Oh, very good.
Description. So like when you're about to put out a new album, and so you've spent these songs have spent all this time in the sun, and you're about to put the bottle on it and send it out into the world. Yeah. So when you say like you hope that people find value in it, what do you mean? Like, can you expand on that?
Well, I hope that I have plumbed my depths to a degree that there's a true insight or beauty that will touch and send energy into that person's endeavors, Once in a while, people say very unusual things, that, like, I gave birth to a baby to one of your songs, or, things like I was homeless in my car for a long while, and this music of yours was important to me. So that you accompany people, as I've been accompanied by many artists that's been my muse, is many artists, many channels. So to join that river of flowing through other people's realities is really nice exchange.
I love your poetic views
Me
on
too,
music. Like that's what I love to talk about on these episodes. You know, it's like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Why do we?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's a fight sometimes to get it out there, to get it funded. I mean, all of that can be so difficult, but I love hearing, you know, someone's soul needs to speak and can, like, hopefully is reaching out to help other people in their experiences. Like, that's a very beautiful way to approach the whole thing. I do have to ask, are you able to sustain your life with your music, or do you have other income streams?
Primarily, yes. I mean, it's a very modest subsistence. That sounds like a rough term, doesn't it? But it's not. I'm not embarrassed by that. But I certainly have traded a degree of stability that some people might not be willing to for that. And by the grace of a lot of friendships, I'm able to do that. And I used to supplement things much more with teaching. Like I was, before I left the States, back in 2006, I was living in Chicago, and I was did tours and stuff. I'd started touring a few years before, but I was teaching like group voice lessons at the Old Town School of Folk Music, which I really loved, and I had private students as well. And but then when I left for Spain, and the places I lived in Spain are not such big hotbeds of that. You know, I remember my partner at the time I was like, oh, we're here up in the in the deep mountains of, you know, the Sierra near Granada, and I was like, well, let's just put a little sign up that says music lessons. And he just laughed. He's like, that is hilarious. I mean, these people don't want music lessons here. There's, you know, they got the mule coming up with the cherries. They, you know, and that's part of what drew me there. I kind of wanted to just see where there was a more natural life, and that was certainly part of it. It's just like, you just sing because you're singing in the festivities, and you're singing with your family, and you're singing at the church, and music is just a part of life. It's not this slightly neurotic thing that's developed where we get so separated from one another, and we're in these nuclear families, and then people don't sing anymore, and then they become ill, and they need to, you know, and they want to sing, but they're blocked because they're so traumatized. You know, let's face it. We're a very, very rich culture, but there's a lot of weird fallout from capitalism and all the. It's just it's a strange place, the USA. You know, I mean, I love giving voice lessons, but I know that it's half of it is a therapy. You know, it was a therapy for me when I took voice lessons.
Have you enjoyed your time in other countries, kind of outside of this sphere?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Would recommend?
Well, yes. I think if you have an opportunity to do meaningful work and elsewhere outside of being a tourist, you know, take it up and try to learn another language, see what you can contribute somewhere else. Yeah.
Have you had to kind of be daring with your finances to live kind of the non-traditional lifestyle?
Well, what do you mean by daring?
For a lot of people, doing something without a financial safety net is almost impossible to think of.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true. And it's discouraged in our society not to take risks. They say like, have a plan B or, you know.
Well, we're all very different. Some people need that stability, and I respect that. And I guess my first part of my life, didn't travel much. My family was very much stayed in Colorado. You know, we went to once to South Dakota to see the Rushmore. I remember that. I was like, I don't know, this is not scratching an itch for me. You know,
we smaller than
we go sometimes to New Mexico or something. So I'd never seen the ocean. When I was 19, I saw the ocean. So,
wow.
You know, I had a very big build-up, pent-up wanderlust.
Mm.
And then, so that's also part of it, you know. And then a willingness to be almost reckless in a way, and definitely forego stability. Yeah.
There's a lot
in a
of...
way.
there's something to be said about, at least in our society, that like living an artist's life is almost the same thing as taking a vow of poverty, but at the same time you get to opt out of the 9-to-5 bullshit and the life of choked up, you know, push all your feelings down, resentment until you get cancer and then die.
Oh, that's rough. That's yeah.
Well, that's like
there's some truth to it. I mean,
there's
a truth in every joke, I guess.
Right, but it's, you know, opting out of that mainstream 9-to-5 grind is, for a lot of people, a worthy trade-off.
Well, yes, I've worked 1 year full time. I think I was 20. I just got out of college. I was 23, and I worked 1 year in a preschool, teaching preschool music, and that was my only year of doing 9-to-5, and I really didn't like it. Yeah, I really enjoyed certain things, but I was like, I'm going to try to stay away from this if I can, and even do and then I did a lot of, after that I left for Chicago. I did a little grad school. I did a little theater, and I was working as a waitress, and I was working doing a little bit of teaching and stuff, but I was even happier doing various jobs than one solid job, variety. But I wasn't somebody who was like, I want to start a family. I want to have a house, so that's a very different life path for some people. Yeah. And so.
And one of the beautiful things about opting out of that, as an artist, you get to kind of deliver the fruits of opting out to the people that have opted in. And
sure,
you get to be a kind of a messenger from the dream world to the people who are at their computers every day or something, or driving a truck around, Yeah,
and I mean, I think everyone's reality is interesting to me. I'm very interested in people who have children and haven't moved, and they've stayed with this. That's fascinating to me. So I don't think mine is a superior choice, but often I'll sit with somebody like that, and we'll be just like, wow, what a life, And like my oldest friend, she's like, I can't believe you live this life. And I'm like, I can't believe you live this life. It's so intriguing to me, this children and a married family and in the same hometown. And, it has the beauty to it.
Yeah, for sure it does.
Yeah.
Some people balance both. I'm
And that's
not
true
sure
too.
how. That seems very hard.
Yes. So there's no one path. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big thing we try to discuss here, is that there's so many ways to find whatever your spirit is looking for or whatever you're good at. So I'm glad we have you on to talk about this particular style of living. So are you kind of transient right now? Where are you calling home at the moment?
Well, I'm a bit transient. I guess that's a word. I like that. It sounds like I'm trespassing. Hopefully I'm not trespassing, but actually, interestingly enough, in the pandemic, that did force me to have a stillness that is part of this new record, that's sort of reflecting on it a little bit. But I rented a house in my old hometown with a partner, and was filled it with all, went to the thrift store and got curtains and had a lot of fun, like, this is a house, and set it all up, and then it all fell apart, and I was like, I don't know if this is I'm ready for this, or it's almost like a play, it's almost like a playhouse.
Mm-hmm.
That's been in Spain many years. Every place is furnished down to the towels and the silverware, so you can very easily float from place to place with just what you have, your instruments and a few books. That's part of what's made it easy to be a little bit of a gypsy type of life. And then so this time I was like, oh, I'll get my own silverware. I'm going to get my own towels. And,
you can make all
and
those choices.
Yeah, but it didn't quite pan out. But it was fun for a little while.
Well, the new record is filled with sounds, and I wanted to ask you about this. It's filled with like field recordings, bird songs, and crickets, and songs of like. I was wondering if that's sounds from around the house, because it is called Domestic Sphere. So I was wondering if that's all related to it.
Well, there are some, like, from just like my balcony in one village place I lived in. The cats in the heat woke me up, so just recorded them out on the street, and then just a place that I like to go meditate, walking, even some things from here in Nashville. A couple sounds, some bird sounds, and just things that. I think most people do this. Just now you have your little handy. I used to carry the little tiny
field
note,
recorder?
Yeah, like a little voice notes machine kind of thing. And now it's on your phone. But so some of them are that, but it's nothing like. It's just things that were personal to me, to my memory, and mixing those into the songs was pretty fun, and a lot of synchronicities happened with that were really unexpected. That's cool. On how they happened to be in the key of the song and in the rhythm, or just a lot of things that maybe no one will ever notice, but was very satisfying to me, and summons up a lot of my memories.
Yeah, it creates a sense of place for the songs to live in. I think it really is beautiful. I think.
Thank you.
So, I wanted to ask you, because we were talking to Suzanne Ciani, and she had this great quote where she said, "To be an artist, you have to trust that you have something original to say." And I wanted to know when you first had that inkling in yourself.
Well, I think it happened in a few different moments, just as far as a voice, the voice. I remember that pretty distinctly because the first time I sang by myself in public, I was like 11, and there was like a school performance, and it was really cute. It was like one of these little skits, kind of narrative skits on a theme, and it was called Sky Happy, and it was about the history of aviation. And I sang this with 3 girls. We sang this song about Amelia Earhart called Lady of the Air. And so it was kind of together in harmony, but then each of us had a solo. And I was like, Lady of the Air, my Amelia. Lady of the Air, my ideal. Lady, won't you say where you are today? Lady of the Air, Amelia. And then it went on, but I think I was connecting a lot to this mystery of her death or disappearance because my birth father crashed his plane and when I was a baby and died.
Wow.
So I think there was like some sort of really deep connection to that lyric, and like I don't think I was ever mourning him because I didn't know him, but it was still like from my own personal mythology, that's a significant thing, and I had a stepdad or adopted father already, but I think I was really soulfully singing, and I had that resonated with people, and I was like, oh, when I sing, people kind of tear up, and they can, it was an authentic thing that I could do that felt really good, and also, so I think that's what we're all looking for, is that place that we can really be ourselves, but it reflects back. You know what I mean? That there's things I might like to do, but I might not get feedback for that, so it's more just a personal thing. But the vocation that we have might be the thing where we get that feedback, so it's a meaningful exchange that we know we're helping people feel deeply or healing them if you're a doctor or a, medical person or, things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's kind of a long story, but
no, that's beautiful. That's an amazing story. When did you start writing songs, and how did you know that you were any good at that?
I was always really liked to write and do creative things. I liked making little radio shows, with the cassette tapes and doing funny things like that. And probably you guys too. I should be asking you.
We post like pretend TRL episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then at my grandma's, she had a piano, and then I would just kind of improvise on it. And then we got our neighbor's piano. They sold us their big upright. And I really liked how storytelling could easily flow into making just sound. And then writing songs came basically when I was about 15, 16. Yeah. Wow. And I was through the choir at school. She had started a little theory club, like music theory, and I joined that and learned a little about notation, and I really quickly was like, wow, okay. So I sat outside and I was like, how do I make the sound of the wind, And I was like, okay, a clarinet and this, and then the voices, and I scored it. And it was kind of influenced by like Debussy and that sound, which I had just heard for the first time, kind of blew my mind. Like that that school of the French Impressionist composers or whatever they're called. And it was just, I was just writing since then in different ways. Sometimes just simple joke songs, like really ridiculous. I was working at a fast food restaurant. When I turned 16, my mom's like, "Go get a job. They're hiring down there at that fast food restaurant." I was like, okay. And I just went down there. Like, Mom, my mom's like, really, and she knows when certain things have to happen. So 16, get a job. And I would be in the drive-through line writing poems, and just making silly voices, and just because I thought it was so hilarious, the whole thing. And I wrote this song called, and this must have been in 1990. I wrote this song called Minivan Ma'am, because it was all about the minivan van then. It was all this new thing. I was like, "Hey, ma'am, in the minivan, 2 kids in the back seat, but where's your man?"
That's a hit.
That's
honestly
a golden
pop gold.
hit.
Yeah,
I know. I didn't ever really sing that anywhere. But
you have to bring that one back again.
Yeah, I love it.
Flesh that one out.
So anyway, it was just like anything, I'd make fake Baroque songs, and or all the different things, just playfulness. So
that seems like an important thing in staying excited about creating for hopefully a lifelong journey of various creative endeavors.
Yeah.
Do you express yourself creatively other than just music?
Yeah, I like to paint and draw and write poetry and garden. I love film and.
Do you consider gardening an art form? I love that.
I guess it is.
I think W.H. Auden had this line, "Gardening is civilizing."
Oh,
And that's
that
probably
makes
true.
sense. It is very. Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Not to get too deep into like lit 101.
This is an educational
Very
podcast.
true. Very true.
Do you read a lot of poetry? I was wondering that.
Honestly, not at the moment, but I read a little bit.
Hmm.
I read a little bit. But when I was, when I was younger, I was a big always at the library, and you could check out records, LPs, and you could check out obviously books, but you could also check out paintings.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really?
you could check out a painting for 3 weeks and put it up on your wall and then take it back. There was these big rows like poster files,
Wow.
And
That's incredible.
and the library was like, I love the library, and then later in school I worked at the music library at the university and just would have piles of scores. I loved reading through songbooks and just LPs, and I think that is something I really I was never a record collector, like I'm going to buy and just have my own private thing. I really believe in the collective ownership of those things when possible.
Yeah, I agree with that. I grew up going to my library too and just renting CDs and cassettes, and just there was something cool about knowing that this collection existed in this one place and everyone had access to it.
Yeah.
And I feel like the library is an untapped resource.
Mm-hmm.
We should interview a librarian.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if the idea of a library was presented today, like we didn't have libraries before, and someone presented that idea, like our government would fund this place where you could find information.
That's way too communist.
Yeah, like
It is in a way. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. It really is. This one place, and they're often beautiful buildings,
Yeah.
lots of light.
Yes.
Yeah, especially if you go traveling. The library is one of the best places in any town.
Yes, absolutely.
Library, churches.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I agree with that.
We're all pro-library here.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Otherwise, I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So I was wondering, like, the sense of play, and how do you cultivate that and keep the flame going of imagination when there's so much distractions now? A lot of the songwriters we talk to have to fight with their phones,
Yeah.
Put their phone down or get off the internet for a while and just kind of daydream.
Yes.
Because it's so important to the creative process. How do you navigate these times of distraction?
Yeah. I mean, it's a big discipline that's required for all of us as much as we can. I try to book in the day with a lot of space without engaging, and then I try to walk once or twice a day without the phone, and just and it's gotten worse. I didn't have a funny phone until probably later than most people. And I used to look at people and laugh and go, oh, they're so crazy. It's like they've been eaten. It's eating their brains, and they'd be hunched over. And I go, what is this? And then I was given one, and then I was joined the sheep. And then I was never, the Instagram, I was like, what are they doing? I never really, hardly engaged with Facebook. And then must have been in the pandemic, I was like, I'm going to try the Instagram out because I want to keep some sharing, and I felt so isolated. But I say it's a black hole. It's a black hole that I have to really, because all of a sudden I'm connected to friends and stuff that I want to be connected with, but at the same time is over connection at some degree, like, and it's hard to mitigate the boundaries because it's all spilling towards you, and it's positive in the sense that you want to support everybody, and you are interested in, but it's so much, and then your time in your real present moment starts to dwindle, and time is so precious, and our life is so precious, and the people were really around, but the pandemic has certainly served to divide and break up a lot of community
and
realities.
Now being an artist too, you're almost expected to have these social media, I don't know what they call them, handles.
Yeah.
I know I sound like a boomer, but you're supposed to post every day and post all the time and share, and it's good in a way because you're reaching your audience, but it's also there's something superficial about posting, and I don't know, maybe that's too cynical. Maybe because what people choose to share might mean something to them, and I'm just being a douche.
No, not you.
Well, it's like a bulletin board, like a community bulletin board, and you'd walk by and you'd see everyone every day put their announcement, but that's a lot, maybe it used to be a poster here, a poster there, but so it's a little, that again, everyone has to, I think we're very naive in a way. I feel real naive about it, to think that you can step in these waters and not be touched by the murky creatures that you can't see, that are the powers within that are designing these and stuff. So I'm currently wrestling with that, because it's like once everybody's in this thing, you're in the thing. you know,
Yeah.
and everybody
Yeah.
walks out of it. But it's a challenge at the moment. It's
The murky creatures that you can't see sounds like something that you would write about.
Yeah, free song inspiration.
Okay, yep, I'll write that down.
So, I mean, as far as this, I'm sure you get asked this a lot by younger people, but you know, a life in the arts and on your own terms, what would you say to somebody who's trying to do that, who's trying to have a career, not a career, but a life in art and navigate all the things that you have to do as an artist to be okay with who you are and what you're doing and the art you're making?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that goes back to this subject of the social media, which I would say what a blessing to not have grown up in that, personally. I mean, that's a bias of a generation, but just to have had so much time, uninterrupted time, and to really just be not have the scrutiny and the commercial pressures of any sort so if I was going to say to someone, it would be don't try to be a professional artist at all. Just play and see what happens, but don't try, because it's all about experimentation and love, and following the thread of your deepest discoveries, and that's a very private thing in a way, that you need to give yourself a lot of time, solitude with friends, and this process of incubating a baby or a work of art, it behooves you not to be overly displaying that precious time and that precious new form, and let yourself just connect to the source of whatever you believe it is, but just that should be your primary connection, not the exhibition of your work. That should be the last thing when it's ready. I have a little poem that's called What Sadness Is, and it's just not even a poem. It's what sadness is to prematurely birth anything upon the earth. So that includes your art. Give yourself time. I've certainly precipitated some decisions. My first band that was on a label was a band called The Children's Hour with my dear friend Andy Barr, and we were just buddies playing on the front porch, like, let's make songs that are like teenage songs, and just kind of really connecting to, I was getting out of opera school. I wanted to go to explore other parts of music that I didn't know, and it was like a naivety to it, and playing around just these dive bars in Chicago, and people just started to like that. We really like this, and then a couple labels, and we're like, really? This is almost a joke. It wasn't a joke, but it was just for us. And we signed with this little label. It was the first label that came forward, because we were like, we didn't really care. We didn't know the value of that precious time, and enough. And we were seduced by this, I believe it was a kind person, but we didn't really need to do that then. And the art wasn't ready. The songs, we just were trying all these things, and then we went in the studio, and that's the only time I worked with a quote-unquote producer, because he wanted to be this person who was masterminding these new art, and I don't believe in that anymore. I don't believe in this producer role of it outside of the artists themselves. I don't connect to that, because I think that's part of the creativity of the group, or I think that's more authentic. But whatever, that's another subject. But and we were just like really awkward. We weren't ready, and we weren't really pleased, and we felt pressured, and so I guess you can't really save people from those experiences. I'm not going to save anybody from that, but it's okay to say no and just wait until you really know it. And you're like, now I know it, and take it, just value that incubation period.
In your own timing and your gut.
And just enjoy your privacy. Enjoy that. Enjoy the secrets.
There does seem to be a bit of, an urgency about some artists that they just can't keep it very long. They need to get it out just as quickly as possible. And I don't know if that's maybe due to the constant demand that social media and streaming services ask. If you create more content for our platform, then we'll show it to more people. Kind of this cycle of you make for us and we'll get it to people, but ultimately the money goes to us, not you.
Yes. That's a bit sinister.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Well, many of my friends who are great artists, some of them are full-time artists, but many of them aren't. Many of them have a trade. Many of them do other work. And I think that's totally legitimate and totally beautiful. And is just as rich. Possibly at this moment, if I go back, I probably might be a little more serious about sustaining that, because I think it roots you in the life of humanity more. I don't know if things have shifted since, in the last 10, 20 years, but I think art that comes out of people who are really, I guess I had a lot of experience before. I worked a lot of jobs. I didn't just I'm going to be an artist. I'm going to be a this or that. I feel like I did keep pretty grounded for a long while with normal jobs. So I'm sort of in between. But anyway, I'm definitely rambling on that subject.
It's like an interesting topic with a lot of different layers, and life experience feeds into that opinion probably more than anything else. I do think things have changed a little bit over the past 20 years about just the demand for what an artist has to give all the time, whether it's your personal life, your privacy, or just the amount of art you have to put out to be considered relevant at a certain point.
Yes, I don't pay much attention to it. But at the same time, I do have a lot of urgency, but it's more like a spiritual urgency, because I'm just I want to share this, but I think that makes me feel okay. I feel okay about that.
More natural cycles.
Yeah.
That's a big thing that I think people are getting away from, is the natural cycle of creation, incubation, exploring, just like different phases of life that will create art if a artist lives them, It's kind of turned into a factory now.
Yeah. It's strange. I can't fathom it. I can't put my head around it. I definitely am not a voice of authority on any of this.
I think a lot of people would like to live the kind of life that you have lived and are living now.
Yeah, for for sure.
Well, I think all you have to do is be willing to not get too attached to material things. And that's can be hard, certain things, but that's, I think if you master that, it'll give you some fluidity, you know?
Music career is
Yeah.
almost like a religious path. You have to forgo all your earthly goods,
Well,
earthly comforts.
So you're going to be playing Big Ears in March.
Yeah.
And are you going to be touring on the new record?
I'll be playing some shows around the States and probably up in the New York area and then Chicago, do some Northwest and LA and stuff. So I'm going to bounce around a little. It's been a while since I've gotten, some little mini tours.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Are you excited?
Yeah. Yes, I am, especially to see friends. Yeah, as my community is so spread out. Yeah.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. We can't thank you enough for coming on.
It's such a pleasure. The show is wonderful. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for listening to Devalued. For more information about our podcast, please visit devalued.show.